I'm Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we are the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast where we walk listeners through the ins, outs, and retcons of our favorite superhero soap opera.
And of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men.
Which you're watching right now.
Where we talk about the X-books that come out each week, this week being that of December 10th.
And you are all dressed up for it.
I am indeed. You're looking very nice yourself.
This is just kind of how I dress, but, I mean, you're wearing a tie, dude.
This is very rare.
So this is a special week.
We just saw a friend in a play. He was very good. He was a growly goon, and that was awesome.
Among many other things.
Mm-hmm. So between that, making it very, very late when we're actually starting to record these, and us having a whopping 8 X-books, we're going to try to zoom right through these.
So given that, maybe we should just dive in. First up, we have X-Men number 22. This is the last issue of Mark Guggenheim's run. It is penciled by Harvey Tolibau and Dexter Soy, inked by Harvey Tolibau, Dexter Soy, and Norman Lee, and colored by Paul Mounts. And look, we haven't been huge fans of this run. This issue is the strongest of it by far. It's also the last, and what I'm mostly getting out of it is that I cannot wait for what G. Willow Wilson is going to be doing on this title starting next month.
Yeah, this isn't really going to be one of the arcs that's remembered as a classic X-Men thing. It's fine, it's inoffensive, but G. Willow Wilson, I'm really psyched, to see what she does. Totally agree.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is the best issue because it doesn't stand alone at all. It's the last of an arc. If you're looking to start this book, start in January.
Well, it wouldn't be a Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men episode without another issue of Axis.
Sixus.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sixus.
I mean, look at that. It's Sixus.
It's totally Sixus. So we have Sixus, number 7, which is the first issue of the third part of Axis, New World Disorder. Sure, why not? Writings by Rick Remender, art is by Adam Kubert, colors by Edgar Delgado and Jesus Abertov. So this one mostly is a weird 70s New Age Deadpool, which is, him inverted, I guess, fighting Apocalypse. So that happens. It certainly is a comic. It does have some, I'm not going to say interesting revelations about, spoiler, Magneto maybe not being the actual father of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
To be fair, versions of that revelation have happened so ridiculous. It's functionally the equivalent of a Summers Brother reveal. It's going to be retconned back.
Yeah, but this time it's probably just because Marvel is doing everything they can to yoink all the characters they can from Fox for the movies. But whatever. Anyway, Axis is Axis. You're either buying it already, in which case you might as well finish it off, or you're not, in which case you're really not missing anything that couldn't be solved by a Wikipedia article.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I have made the conscious decision to stop caring about this event.
Oh, Sixus. Oh, Sixus.
All right, next up we've got a first issue, that is Spider-Man and the X-Men number 1, taking over where Wolverine and the X-Men left off. This is written by Elliot Kalin, drawn by Marco Fela, and colored by Ian Herring, and it's lovely. It is a lot of fun. I have absolutely no idea what's been happening with Spider-Man continuity-wise other than that he's not inverted, because I don't really follow Spider books, and also because the last thing I remember, he was in his 30s and married to Mary Jane Watson, so then I kind of stopped caring after they retconned that away.
The last thing I remember, he was teaming up with Iceman and Firestar and terribly animated.
Oh, well no, he teamed up with Iceman and Firestar and Amazing X-Men though, too.
Oh, that's true. Well, there you go.
That was a delightful issue.
Anyway.
This issue is also delightful. Wolverine has asked Spider-Man to come take over as guidance counselor for the special class, which you may recall from Grant Morrison's run, which is the super weird class of the Jean Grey School. It has a special place in my heart.
Couple of new additions.
But No Girl is back.
Yeah,
and I love No Girl so much. No Girl's one of my favorites. And Ernst, and all the weirdos. Anyway, Spider-Man is supposed to come take over to try to hunt down a mole who has somehow made it into the Jean Grey School. And there are wacky Spider-Man hijinks. Spider-Man is apparently in his early 20s again now, and no one knows who he is.
It's time, don't worry about it.
And he wasn't a science... Didn't he used to be a science teacher?
Yes, I believe so.
Anyway, he's completely out of his depth, and it's entertaining, and it's fun, and I really don't know whether this is a tone that could sustain an entire series, so I'm interested in seeing how that's going to go, but as a first issue, it's great.
Next is X-Force number 13, written by Simon Spurrier, penciled by Tan Eng Quat and Kevin Sharp, and colored by Jose Villarrubia.
And I gotta say, I have entirely given up on trying to predict where this comic is going to go at this point, because the twists have twists.
Seriously, I was, there were a couple of blah moments this issue for me, and I actually did that, and I was at work around my lunch break, so I got some weird looks. These things happen. The things I do for you, viewers/listeners. But yeah, this book, I mean, it's really become typified as the very violent, very plot twisty, very cleverly written, not for everyone book of the X universe. We love it. This issue, I think, is a great example of why we love it. That being said, it's also very much in the middle of an incredibly tangly story arc, so it would be a terrible jumping on point.
Yeah, this is not a book to pick up mid-run. If you're interested, if you like weird, cerebral, ultra twisty stuff, if you are a fan of deeply meta comics, start at the beginning of this run, but don't try to dive in right now because you're not going to be able to pick it up.
Also, if you don't mind really, really disturbing, violent stuff, that's important to note as well.
Whole lot of words.
Yeah, that too. So anyway, yes, I like this issue a lot. Good stuff.
Next, we've got Nightcrawler number 9, written by Chris Claremont, drawn by Todd Nauck, colored by Rochelle Rosenberg. And if you were absolutely looking for another comic featuring the X-Men who are evil for an entirely different reason, this delivers. So good on you.
Yeah, it's more Shadow King possession stuff and the X-Men making faces like, sorry, I can't do one.
Can that just be the review? Can you just make Todd Nauck possessed faces? Man, I cannot handle the way Todd Nauck draws faces, and I feel kind of bad about that because I actually really like his action art and I really like his layouts, but his faces just freak me the hell out.
The next summer's event is just a bunch of headless superheroes and supervillains fighting each other, drawn by him. It'll be great. Meanwhile, here's a comic with Nightcrawler in it that involves inverted characters. I think we have a lot more to say about. This is Amazing X-Men number 14, written by Chris Yost, with pencils by Carlo Barberi and Iban Coelho, and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg.
And this is continuing a trend we've seen so far in both Axis and Death of Wolverine, wherein the tie-ins are better than the central event comic, and in this case, it's really good.
Yeah, this is the second issue of Amazing X-Men in a row that's kind of blown me away. We have Nightcrawler inverted and Mystique inverted, and her tracking him down, trying to stop him from doing the terrible, terrible things that she has done in her past. He's basically back in the village we saw in Giant Size X-Men number 1 way back in the day, where there were, pitchforks and torches coming after him, intending to murder a whole lot of people. And we're so used to Nightcrawler being like this happy-go-lucky, warm-hearted guy you really just want to hang out with and play video games with or talk about, your favorite television episodes, or that's what I would do. And so it's easy to forget that he can be terrifying. And in this issue, he really is. Like that demonic appearance that we've really come to love, you kind of see why people are scared of him. And, I remember Mystique was written kind of crappily in the main Axis series when she was inverted, and this really gets the voice of what I think an inverted Mystique would be like.
Yeah, there's been an inverted Mystique in, I think, Revolution specifically in a short story that I was really underwhelmed by. This is super solid, and I kind of want to go back to inverted Nightcrawler because we've seen evil Nightcrawlers before, and we've seen morally gray Nightcrawlers. I'm thinking specifically of, like, evil Nazi Nightcrawler and
Excalibur, yeah.
Well, an Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler who's much, much darker. This Nightcrawler, and those Nightcrawlers always have a bit at least of sort of the playfulness, and that's what makes Nazi Nightcrawler so scary, is because he's superficially, he's got a lot, he's playful in a lot of the same ways as normal Nightcrawler. He's just also super, super awful. This Nightcrawler is just really, really angry. And that's not a direction the character tends to go. And if you're talking about, again, inversion as D&D inversion, it works. It's really smart, and it's really interesting. And it does something that not a lot of Axis has done, which is using that inversion to provide a really good window into the character.
This is also a standalone issue. Like we mentioned, don't jump into X-Force this week. If you wanted to jump into Amazing X-Men this week, I think this is a really good place to do it.
Speaking of very good Mystique stories, next up we have Logan Legacy number 6, written by James Tynion IV, drawn by Andy Clark, and colored by Dan Brown. This is a title that we were utterly uninterested in based on the first issue, and that has been growing on us ever since. I think it kind of peaked with the Lady Deathstrike issue.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
The others have been strong, but not quite that strong, and this continues that. But it's a great Mystique story. And it really gets the voice of the character. It's fun. It's a Mystique story, which basically means that it's a heist with a whole lot of murder.
Whole lot of murder. And I think, the fact that this is a standalone story, the fact that all of them except number 1 have been, that really is what this series should be doing, which is showing us both the voices of characters we don't see as much, well, for the most part, we saw a lot of Dakin for a while, but also showing how those voices change in a world where this person who's in some ways defined their lives is gone. And so far, I gotta say, with the standalone stories, to varying degrees, I think we're 5 for 5.
Well, not just one person who's defined their lives, because this is very much not just a Mystique story, this is a Mystique and Destiny story.
Right, yes.
And I love Mystique and Destiny so much for so many reasons. Man, I'm going to digress briefly and say, Marvel, if you're out there, if you're listening.
Are you there, Marvel?
Wow! Oh God, this is a little scary.
Anyway,
if they're making all of these new TV series, and Yeah, if they were making one for me, it would be Mystique and Destiny doing heists in the 40s. It would basically be 40s Leverage starring Mystique and Destiny.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Yeah, and I would watch that so hard. I would watch that so hard that it would make up for the millions and millions of other viewers who just wouldn't care.
I would be there right with you.
Anyway, Destiny is a fun character. Destiny and Mystique as, like, criminal lady friends who are also very much partners in crime never fails to be fun, and this continues that. It's a classic Mystique story. She kills a whole lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. She breaks into a whole lot of secret headquarters. And ultimately, it also ties back to the ongoing actual framing plot that was hinted at in Logan Legacy #1 in ways that are actually interesting, which I did not see coming.
Finally, we have Uncanny X-Men Annual #1 by Brian Bendis with art by Andrea Sorrentino and colors by Marcelo Maiolo. And this is actually one of quite a few Uncanny X-Men Annual #1s that have come out over the years because they just keep relaunching the book over and over.
Yeah, there have been a lot of series called Uncanny X-Men. This is volume, 3, I think?
Something like that.
Anyway, it's the one that came out, this week.
Right. Anyway, this is actually part 1 of a 2-part story. The second part is going to be in the all-new X-Men Annual coming out very shortly.
Huh.
And it talks about where Eva Bell, Tempest, from the Xavier Institute run by Cyclops, who's a fan-favorite character, where she was when she disappeared and then came back shortly thereafter, much older, a little while ago. Turns out she was traveling through time! And so we get to see her in the Wild West, meeting up with the Rawhide Kid, which was kind of great, and in the year 2099, meeting up with, you guessed it, X-Men 2099. And it's interesting. I mean, it actually reminds me a little of a recent Wolverine and the X-Men issue where Wolverine and Storm were sort of spent a whole lot of time in this alternate dimension. And so, like, a lot of stuff happens. It kind of cuts from one thing to another to another. It's fun. I think I was hoping for a little more. I was hoping for something like, I don't know, like The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix from the 90s or the Magic miniseries from the 80s. This one's very content light compared to those, I think.
None of the places she travel are really fleshed out. And that's partly a problem with the writing. It's very definitely a problem with the art, which is pretty, but narratively pretty much useless.
That being said, it is really, really pretty. Like, I wanted half of those panels on my wall.
Yeah, but if I wanted wall art, I wouldn't be buying comic books. I would like the art to serve a narrative function, and here, I can tell who's talking, which I couldn't if it were just floating word balloons, but it doesn't do much more than that.
Well, anyway, overall, I liked it. I mean, I don't think it's, an incredible issue, but it's fun, it's enjoyable. I don't regret the money that we spent on it. And I am looking forward to seeing where it goes in the all-new X-Men Annual that's coming up.
For all that it's been built up, I wanted more from this story when we finally saw it executed. I'm hoping that the all-new Annual is going to pay off where this one didn't. So, Miles, of the 8 options available to us, what's going to be our issue of the week?
Actually, once again, it's going to be Amazing X-Men, this week's, which is number 14.
Yeah, and bonus points for actually making 6s cool.
Right, who'd have thought? The event spin-offs being way better than the events. I'll take it.
I gotta say, I would love to see this title end up along the lines of X-Men Unlimited.
Yeah.
So, cool one-off stories, because it's had, every ongoing arc of it that I've read so far has just been kind of meh. But then the one-shots are great. I mean, there was the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends one we mentioned earlier, there was last month's, there was this month's, and having a title that people could just pick up for an issue and have as an introduction or a brief window into the X universe would be so nice.
Yeah.
With, how many books there are going and how much continuity there is. So yeah, I'd like to see this continue.
Meanwhile, what's our panel of the week?
Well, we actually don't have a panel of the week this week. We considered a couple, but what we ultimately decided is that this week we're going to have a cover of the week instead. And that is the cover to, again, Amazing X-Men number 14. This is by Chris Anka, and it's moody, it's really cool, and it's a really clever, and I'm going to say it and kind of hate myself for it, inversion of what you'd expect.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, there's not another good term for it.
But yeah, I do agree. I mean, we really capture, like, the menace of Nightcrawler and the almost, like, purity, for lack of a better word, of Mystique in a way that I totally buy. It really speaks to the contents of the issue inside without being, just like a random panel. And that's exactly what I want on a superhero comic cover.
I also really love the colors.
So there you have it. 8 books down, success.
If you like what you've seen here, please check out our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, on iTunes, and on Stitcher. What have we got for them this week, Miles?
This week it's going to be all about everybody's favorite disco queen, the Dazzler.
Jazz hands.
Disco hands.
Are disco hands even a thing?
Yes. Anyway.
We're going to be looking at the classic Marvel graphic novel, Dazzler the Movie, and the significantly less classic...
but way better.
...miniseries, Beauty and the Beast.
I'm just saying, one of them has Doctor Doom and one doesn't. In my opinion, the choice is clear. So yes, please also check out RachelandMiles.com, our website. We have annotated commentaries for every podcast episode we do. We have fan art, we have essays, we have all sorts of good stuff.
This video review and all of our video reviews and much of that website exists thanks to the generosity of our Patreon subscribers. You guys are amazing. You are the wind beneath our wings, our horrible metal poisonous wings. And you have just unlocked a new milestone goal this month, which is T-shirts of the month. The first one is up right now. It's a 9 vulnerable when blasted warning label.
It is seriously so good. I want to put this on like everything in our apartment.
There are stickers. We could put it on everything in our apartment.
That's true.
This is good. Yeah, I want to put one on the cat.
So
and there's also a new one up there, and if we hit that, I will have to review and recap every single episode of X-Men Evolution, which I actually really want to do, so yeah.
So yes, please, if you'd like to support us, check out the link right down there somewhere. We would very much appreciate it, but regardless, thank you for watching. If you listen to the podcast, thank you for listening. We love you guys a lot.
Jazz hands.
Disco hands. Okay, go.
That's our tag. That's not our tag. That is so not our tag. That is not an okay tag.